And charged with illegally retaining classified records, including names and phone numbers of covert CIA assets working in China. Peter Brookes is still with us. He's a senior fellow at the Heritage Foundation, also a former Deputy Assistant Secretary of Defense and a former CIA officer. Thanks for sticking around, Peter. And I want to thank you. Is there a connection with this case to the killings and arrest of U.S. spies inside of China?
Well, it's certainly possible. I mean, Arthel, it's important to point out here that this individual has not been charged with espionage yet. It's just this classified information he was in possession of. But, of course, there's concerns about the connection between the information that was reported by the newspapers of the names of CIA officers and assets in China, and then the disappearance or killings or arrests of Chinese individuals in China. So there's a tremendous amount of concern to that, and it's hard for us on the outside to make that connection. But it seems from the reporting we're seeing that the people are making that connection, although the individual has not been charged with espionage yet.
So does this now hamper U.S. spy capabilities inside China, and does it impair any diplomacy efforts between the U.S. and China?
Well, it's important also to look at the reporting we've seen. They're talking about this was up through 2012. And the individual was just arrested.
Right.
So this is, takes painstaking investigative efforts on the part of the U.S. government to try to put this case together to get to the point where they can make an indictment and arrest the individual. Of course, Arthel, remember, if the allegations out there are true that it involves China, the Chinese are not going to cooperate with us, are they? And of course, that we're going to continue to try to rebuild any intelligence networks that were broken. And that can take some time. Remember, this is human intelligence. This isn't technical intelligence. And that can take quite some time, especially if the Chinese had particular insights into how the United States may conduct these sort of operations.
Exactly. How do you know the path is clear to go back in there at some point? And also, does this diminish U.S. spy operations outside of China, or, does it strain U.S. national security capabilities in other ways?
Well, one of the big problems, of course, is about, intelligence leaks from the U.S. government, or a case like this is that if you're trying to recruit people overseas, do they feel they can trust the United States? In other words, that they're not going to have somebody who is going to turn them over to their country, or somebody going to read about an intelligence operation in the American press. These can be real challenges for Americans trying to set up intelligence networks, as you can understand. So yes, this is not helpful to us. This is harmful to our ability to protect and advance our national security, potentially if it is related to China against a major rival. If you look at the national defense strategy that was mentioned in the previous segment, they talk about great power rivalries, including the United States and China and Russia, Iran, North Korea, the challenges we have there. And of course, China plays a major role in many things around the world, an increasingly important role, including North Korea, which is obviously something we're very, very concerned about. So yes, this is, if the allegations are true, this is very troubling and potentially a setback for American intelligence operations.
So what happens next? I mean, how do you avoid this? In this case, I understand it wasn't necessarily negligence, but this guy reportedly was a disgruntled employee, unfortunately working for the CIA, and he, became a turncoat.
Right.
How do you vet that? How do you know somebody's not going to remain loyal?
Well, it's very, very difficult. Obviously, a great amount of trust is put in our government employees, especially those with national security secrets. And there is an ongoing efforts on the part of the U.S. government to ensure that people are not betraying that significant trust. In this case, think about it, lives were involved. The same thing was true, as I mentioned earlier, before we had to move off to the Senate floor, the cases of Robert Hansen, who betrayed the United States while he was employee of the FBI, or Aldrich Ames, who betrayed the United States while he was a CIA employee. So yes, this is not only the matter of secrets, but it also can be a matter of lives and our national security, because as I mentioned, people may be reluctant to work with the United States. But yeah, this is a real challenge, for the United States, and there are many reasons that people decide to betray their country. It could be ideological, it could be money, it could be, as you mentioned, if this individual was a disgruntled employee, revenge. So there's a lot of potential motivations out there But once again, we have to trust American people. They are vetted, but we have to continue to look at vetting them on a continuous basis to ensure that they don't have financial troubles or other issues that could lead them down a path that is inimical to our national security.
Yeah, exactly. Lots of factors to consider, and thank you for breaking it all down for us, Peter Brookes. I appreciate your time this afternoon.
Thanks for having me.
Thank you very much.
That sounds like some case.
Yeah, it is some case for sure. And that is going to do it for us. Arthel Neville, Eric Shawn.
We will be here tomorrow at 12, 4, and 6 Eastern. We'll be having continuing coverage of the government shutdown. Will they reach some type of